What's going on, buddy? My name is Eason. Welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to get into topic 4.5 for AP Comparative Government and Politics, which is social movements and interest groups and their impacts. And we'll really be focusing on social movements while just going over what an interest group really is and contrasting it to a social movement. So social movements involve large groups of people pushing collectively for significant and specific political or social change, addressing issues along the way. Social movements across our course country have put pressure on the state to promote indigenous civil rights, redistribute revenues from key exports such as oil, conduct fair and transparent elections, and ensure fair treatment of citizens of different sexual orientations. Let's look at some examples. The Green Movement in Iran that protested corruption in the 2009 election is one. It advocated for political reform and liberalization to reduce this corruption and to be more transparent. The Guardian Council said there was no problem with the election and there was no voter fraud or anything, and they did a recount of about 10% of elections votes to go to that conclusion. In Iran, we also see the May Day protest for higher wages and benefits, and the 1 in a Million Signatures campaign for women's rights. In Mexico, we see the Zapatistas, or Chiapas uprising in Mexico in response to socioeconomic inequality and the negative impact of the North American Free Trade Agreement, also known as NAFTA. The Zapatistas people are anti-globalization, and as a response to these requests for justice, peace, and independence of these indigenous people, the government has introduced the Indigenous Rights Bill of 2001 to allow these groups to use natural resources in the region to survive, not relying on globalization and high-dollar economics, and it also protects and preserves their culture and language. We also see anti-abortion protests and pro-life activists, as 2 states in Mexico have now allowed abortion within the first trimester of pregnancy. We also see LGBT rights movements for gay rights and anti-discrimination. In Nigeria, we see movements that are often militiant, including the movement for the emancipation of the Niger Delta, which is MEND, and the movement for the survival of the Ogoni people, or MOSOP, or M-O-S-O-P, however you want to say it. I'm going to say MOSOP, because that sounds really cool. And these both have emerged for the rights of an ethnic minority, or protest against unjust methods of extraction and distribution of oil in the Niger Delta region. Because if you don't know, Nigeria is really big on exporting oil, and they are known as a rentier state because of that. The MEND wants to change economic and social conditions of people in the Niger Delta region. They work on issues such as environment, local autonomy, control of oil, and indigenous rights, but they are very unorganized. The MOSOP, really cool to say, are a little more effective in my opinion and put pressure on the government to, with non-violent means, do stuff. And they've also brought issues to the Niger Delta region and address them to other people. In Nigeria, we see the Boko Haram movement attempting to establish an Islamic State in northern Nigeria by using violent means like kidnappings, assassinations, and more to put pressure on Nigeria. And this has resulted in violent action by the government itself in response. In Nigeria, the Bring Back the Girls movement emphasizes the government's reaction to the kidnapping of schoolgirls by Boko Haram. In Nigeria, Occupy Nigeria works against the eliminations of subsidies for gas and food. In Russia, the March for Millions was organized to protest election fraud and corruption in politics and the government. In Russia, there's an LGBT/gay pride movement for gay rights and marriage equality. And also in Russia, the Federation of Independent Trade Unions is working towards better pay, benefits, and pensions. In China, Greenpeace and other environmental groups work to clean up the environment, which has been negatively affected by the huge amounts of industrialization in the country the past decade and 2 or 3 and 4 or so. In China, there's been an umbrella movement for democracy, independence, and autonomy for Hong Kong. Don't forget about the independence and autonomy movements for Tibet as well. In the United Kingdom, we see social movements like the Leave movement to withdraw from the EU, regional independence movies in Wales, Northern Ireland, and Scotland, which were particularly big in the 90s when they were popular, and the UK Occupy movement to regulate banking and redistribute wealth. Grassroots social movements exert their power from the local level to the regional, national, or international level. In Russia, grassroots movements have organized around regional and local environmental issues such as clean water, air pollution, and waste disposal. With limited organizational hierarchies, such social movements are difficult for state-run military or law enforcement to suppress, but some social movements also have difficulty in attracting and mobilizing support among fellow citizens or negotiating with governmental representatives. The last concept in this video is going to be interest groups, which are explicitly organized to represent and advocate for a specific interest or policy issue, while social movements represent multiple groups and individuals advocating for a broad social change. So that's kind of the difference between the two. And that's the end of the video. I talked really fast in this video, so hopefully you took good notes or you paid attention and you learned something new, because I had at least 3 social movements for every single country, which is great. So yeah, please like and subscribe. It's free. It really does help me out. In the description down below, I have some APCOPO Practice. I think you should go check it out. And yeah, see you guys in the next video. Adios.